Hello everyone, this is Jason from Primetime Aquatics. Thank you so much for being here. A couple weeks ago I got asked the question, why aren't we keeping Oscars in our fish room right now? Someone else asked why we put Geophagus in the aquarium right behind me, and I thought, wow, this would be a great opportunity to compare the two. And so in today's video, we are doing Oscars versus the genus Geophagus. By the way, if you want a lot more information, we've got an Oscar species profile as well as a number of Geophagus species profiles down in the description below. If you want to learn more about any of these fish, thank you so much for being here. Hope you enjoy the video. All right, so let's start with the size. I think that's the most obvious thing. When you're going to get an Oscar, a lot of people see these Oscars. They're in the pet store. They're an inch or two long. They're super cute with those big bug eyes. And they think they've got some time to get a larger tank. And so often these Oscars wind up in a 29-gallon, a 40-gallon, or even a 55, not realizing just how large Oscars get. And it's certainly something you should consider when you're comparing these fish. Oscars are going to get at least 12 inches. I've seen them get even larger. But not only that, they're a thicker bodied fish, a tall bodied fish, and they have a huge bioload, and they grow really, really fast. And so if you've got that 55-gallon tank with the intention of upgrading to a 6-foot tank or larger, you're going to have to do it pretty quick. Usually within 6 to 8 months, those fish are ready to move. Now the Geophagus, again, the Geophagus, it's a genus, and so there's lots of different types, and they will range anywhere from around 5 to 12 inches. The Geophagus topos tend to be the smallest of them. You can easily keep those in a 40 breeder or a 55-gallon, as we have done in the past. Gonna max out somewhere around 5, maybe 6 inches, with females staying a little bit smaller. But there are Geophagus that get larger, a lot of the Cernamensis group, and here I'm going to be showing you the Geophagus altifrons to represent that group because they look very, very similar. So within the Cernamensis group, you've got the true Cernamensis, you have Weinmilleri, you have the altifrons that you're seeing in this video, Megasema. And while there are differences in the way they look, those differences tend to be minor. And for most people, they're not really even going to notice those differences. But for those fish, yeah, they'll get closer to 10 inches, but they grow a lot slower than Oscars do. And so you have a little bit more time if you start them off as a 2 or 3 inch fish, moving them into a larger tank. Now, just to be clear, when it comes to aquarium sizes, the Oscars that you're seeing here were in a 125, and I really do think that is the bare minimum for an Oscar long term. Even better would be a 180, or even an 8-foot tank would be awesome. Again, Oscars, they're large fish. With the Geophagus, like I said, for the smaller ones, the Geophagus topos, anywhere around a 40 breeder to a 55-gallon. But some of those larger ones, like we mentioned with the Cernamensis group, a 6-foot tank is ideal long-term because they are going to get pretty large. Now, water parameters for both of these fish, they can withstand a fairly wide range. You can go into certainly the upper 6s on both of them. We keep all of our fish at a pH of around 8 to 8.2. Water hardness around 10 degrees, so moderately hard. They certainly don't need that. In fact, they would prefer moderately hard water to even soft water for both of these fish. We have water on the harder side, have never had any issues keeping these fish in those water parameters, breeding the fish in water parameters such as what we have. So both of them can withstand a wide range of water parameters. But I will say, in terms of hardiness, the Oscar is one of the most hardy fish you will ever keep. Where the Geophagus, if there's a little bit of ammonia, a little bit of nitrite, they tend to really struggle. Now, you should not be keeping any fish in an uncycled tank. And by the way, if you don't know what that means, check out the video in the upper right-hand corner. I go over what it means to cycle an aquarium. But definitely the Oscars seem to be a hardier fish. Water temperatures are going to be right around the same. They all do well in the upper 70s. Now, one of the big differences here is the personality. One of the things that attracts Oscars, or attracts people to Oscars, is the fact that they are little water dogs. They tend to recognize their owners. They get excited when their owners are in the room. Sometimes they will pout. The first time you ever see an Oscar laying on its side on the substrate, it will freak you out until you realize they're just bored, they're angry, they're mad because you didn't give them the right food. So they can have a little bit of an attitude in that way. Geophagus, not so much. Geophagus will definitely recognize that you are there. After all, they are cichlids, but they're not going to have the same outgoing personality that the Oscars do. But both of them are really, really nice. The other thing to consider is activity level. When they are on the younger side, they tend to move around a lot more, swim a lot more. But I have found as Oscars age, and certainly as Geophagus age, they're not going to be super overly active fish. They're not going to be like some of your African cichlids, your peacocks, your mbuna, where they're constantly flying around the aquarium. They tend to be a little bit more methodical, a little bit slower. So if you're looking for that and not looking for fish that are going to be overly active, both the Oscars and the Geophagus can be really solid options. Now, where you're really going to have to do some thinking is what types of fish do you want with your Oscars or your Geophagus? And by the way, you can keep them together. So I guess halfway through this video, it should be clear. You don't have to choose between both of them. I have kept Oscars with Geophagus many, many times. It's actually a really nice combination provided that you have a large tank. However, if you're keeping one or the other, the Oscar, you're gonna have to be a little bit more careful about your tank mates. They have very large mouths. Now, these are not overly aggressive fish. Both the Oscars and the Geophagus are not super aggressive. I think that the Oscar gets a bad rap because it has such a large mouth, and it does what all fish do. They just eat smaller fish. But because the Oscar is so large, they tend to eat a lot more varieties of fish. So you have to be a little careful there. Really good tank mates might be something like filamentosas barbs, or mascara barbs, or silver dollars, or if you've got a really large tank, like maybe some ballast sharks. The fish do have to be larger so they won't fit in the Oscar's mouth. The smallest I would go would probably be a full-grown rainbow fish, maybe like a 4-inch rainbow fish. That might be okay, but even there, you're really taking your chances. So like the silver dollars are certainly going to be a safer bet. Now with the Geophagus, you've got a lot more options. First of all, because the Tapajos, the smaller Geophagus, again, they're only maxing out at 5 or 6 inches. So now you've got your medium-sized tetras, your Colombian tetras, your Congo tetras, like that size should be okay. I wouldn't do neons or anything like that. Those would probably go missing. But a lot of your medium to larger size tetras are fine. I've kept geos with Corydoras. I've kept them with various types of loaches. They tend to tolerate those fish fairly well. So you have a lot more stocking options and tank mates with the geos compared to your Oscars. The other thing to consider is how you're setting up your aquarium, what you really want to see. If you really love live plants and you like aquascapes, the Geophagus are going to be a much, much safer bet because they tend not to eat plants. Will they dig a little bit? Maybe. They like to sift through sand, but they're not going to go out of the way to tear up plants. We've got our Geophagus in planted tanks right now, no issues. The Oscar, on the other hand, is rightly considered a tank buster, and that is because when they do get active, when they do have an attitude problem, they are known, and they did it in our 125 that you're seeing throughout this video with the fake plants. They will just pull them up for no reason. They get bored. They want to rearrange the tank. They will pull the stems off of plastic plants. They would absolutely destroy live plants. They will move decorations around. They will start moving gravel around, so you'll have pits everywhere in your aquarium. So if you're okay with that, the Oscars are a great option. But if you like a more nicely aquascaped aquarium, the Geophagus are definitely the way to go. Now, the other thing I think that really stands out here, of course, is the colors, right? So the Oscars, they come in lots of varieties. You've got the red Oscar, the tiger Oscar, you've got the albinos. There are a few other types of varieties that maybe aren't quite as popular. You also have long fin and short fin Oscars. The long fin I've always stayed away from because if you're keeping Oscars with other fish, a lot of times those fins just get torn up. But lots of varieties of Oscars, but there are even more varieties of Geophagus, and they all have that stunning color. Where the Oscars absolutely win in the personality department, in my opinion, the Geophagus absolutely win when it comes to color. They all have that spangling, with the exception of maybe like the Geophagus steindachnerai, but a lot of them have that spangling. They look amazing. They're full of color, and both the males and the females show that intense color, which is really cool. So if you're looking for more color, you might want to consider the Geophagus. Even the Braziliensis, which is probably one I would caution people against if you're looking for geos. The Geophagus Braziliensis looks more like a Jack Dempsey, but really cool color, but that one is a little bit more aggressive than the rest. Now, feeding the fish, there's some differences here as well. The Oscars, to me, again, one of the easiest fish to feed on the face of this earth. I don't recall ever throwing food in the aquarium that an Oscar would not eat. We throw food sticks in, sinking pellets, flakes, frozen bloodworms, frozen brine shrimp. It just doesn't matter. They eat just about everything. The Geophagus, on the other hand, they are not necessarily picky eaters, but sometimes it can be a little bit more difficult to transition them into new foods. They do transition fairly easily, but not as easily as Oscars do. They can be a little bit more picky. Now, something else to consider is tank maintenance. The Oscars, they're just going to require more maintenance. They're bigger fish. They have a bigger bioload. They like to eat more. They like to dig more. They like to move things around. All of that is going to create a lot more of a mess inside your aquarium. The filters tend to be a little bit more gunked up at the end of the week when you have an Oscar tank compared to Geophagus. And oh, by the way, one of the things that Geophagus love to do is they love to sift through sand. When they do that, they tend to pick up a lot of particles that are in the sand, and then they spit out all the detritus and stuff, and that will wind up getting caught up in your filter. So they actually can keep your substrate a lot cleaner with the Oscars. They just don't do that. There's going to be more tank maintenance involved, gravel vacuuming, that kind of thing compared to the Geophagus. Something else to consider, if you are someone who loves to breed fish, don't breed Oscars. I know it sounds mean to say, but Oscars can have many, many, many hundreds of babies, and they are extremely difficult to get rid of once you have them. And I don't know a lot of people who have sufficient amount of space to grow out Oscars that are growing very, very quickly. It's not like a lot of cichlids where you can grow them out in a 10 gallon, move them to a 20, and by the time they get to the 20, you're able to move them. With Oscars, because you have so many babies and because they're growing so quickly, they are significantly more difficult to move, if not nearly impossible. Where Geophagus, those fish are in demand. So anywhere from the Geophagus tapajos to the whole Cernamensis group, most Geophagus, with the exception of maybe the Steindachnerai and maybe the Brasiliensis, almost all of the other Geophagus, those fish are in demand. And so when you grow them up, and by the way, they're growing slowly, so you can easily get them in a 20 gallon, get them to size where you could sell them, and pet stores will usually take them. So they're in much more demand in terms of the juveniles. Which brings us to the cost. If you are thinking about either Oscars or Geophagus, Oscars, those little 1, 2, maybe 3-inch fish can go anywhere from $5 to $10 a piece. They're not terribly expensive, where the Geophagus usually are going to be more money at the pet store. So expect to pay anywhere from $10 to $30 or more. Really depends on the size of the Geophagus, because the larger they get, the more color they show, and so their prices go up exponentially as they get older. But it's not uncommon to see between $10 and $30 retail. So I would love to hear from you. Which one is your favorite? Do you like Oscars? Do you like Geophagus? Do you like them both? Again, if you are looking for more information, species profiles on these fish, check out the description below. Really appreciate you being here, and we'll see you in the next one.